I love that we all come together to support one another to help really drive and boost the industry that we are in. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on our second webinar of the day. Just a few house rules for those of you who have not yet joined us on one of these webinars yet. We are streaming live on Facebook and Instagram. So for those of you watching us on those channels, please bear with us. There may be some technical hitches, and if there are, especially on Instagram, please head over to page, which is the Professional Beauty GCC Facebook page, and you can watch the live stream there and still have the opportunity to ask questions. For those of you who'd like to ask questions, please tap the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and there will be an opportunity throughout this session and at the end to ask Hannah and Victoria some questions as we go. So, hi ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Today's session is all about whether you have developed a COVID-19 wellness strategy for your teams and your staff in your workplace, which is a very appropriate, subject for what we're all going through at the moment. So, if you ladies can just unmute yourself and give everybody a little introduction as to who you are and a bit about your business.
Perfect. Emma, thank you so much, and good afternoon to everybody.
Hi guys, good afternoon to everyone.
Perfect. So we are from Mental Health Wellbeing at Work. We offer fully accredited first aid mental health courses. We offer 3 different courses. We have a 2-dayer, a 1-day, and also a 4-hour awareness. So it really tells a story throughout your organization from top to bottom. It's giving that support to our employees for any mental health conditions or support that just comes up throughout the day. So our fully accredited courses are from the First Aid Awards, and they're actually accredited by the UK governing body, which is Ofqual. So you get a full qualification at the end of our training. So first of all, who am I? My name's Hannah again. I have been in the beauty and spa industry for 17 years. I have been a spa director to working on a retail, working for a core, Champneys Health Resorts. So a wide selection. I've kind of done all key aspects of our industry, including Medi-Spa as well. Throughout my career, I really found that I wasn't equipped to deal with some of the issues my team were coming to me for. For example, I would see team members that had eating disorders, had suicidal thoughts, severe depression, anxiety. And I was in a situation where, actually being their direct report, I needed to help support them. Within each of my organizations, there were actually no tools. So I really found myself kind of, popping a toolkit together myself to be able to help to support my team members. So that's kind of what led me to kind of set up and be the founder of mental wellbeing, because I just felt that as an industry, we have to think some of our team members could be in back-to-back treatments, and especially more spa side, back-to-back massage, and maybe they've said no more than 2 or 3 words to each client. So those thought processes that go through their head and over-analyzing as well really came out. So that's why I set up the business. And then Victoria joined us.
Hi guys, my name's Victoria. For those of you who don't know me, I am a business partner for Mental Health Wellbeing at Work. I have actually been in the salon and beauty industry all my life. Not many people know, I actually started off as a stylist many years ago, before I moved into larger regional roles with L'Oreal, and took more senior management roles with Harrods in London. So one of the largest teams that I personally have managed was 650 staff, which had its challenges, but daily I would find myself having to support my staff members, experiencing mental health challenges from as Hannah reached on earlier, anorexia, divorce, battling with alcohol and drug abuse, and bereavement. And I personally had to support them through this because I didn't have any training with the organisation I worked with. So fast forward for 2018, I met Hannah. We actually quickly developed a friendship and realized that we had faced the same challenges throughout our professional path. So it just seemed it was a natural step for us to really set our own business up and provide other businesses with a solution.
Perfect. So going back to today's topic, so have you developed a coronavirus wellbeing strategy for your employees? So first of all, we need to take it back to basics. We all need to understand what is mental health before we can even think about kind of looking at the next steps. So we're going to watch a short video just to give you a little bit more kind of detail on what is mental health. Bear with me while I just share my screen.
We all have mental health. It is just as important as physical health. It is not only about mental illness or mental disorders. This is just one part of a bigger picture. It's best to think about mental health as being on a continuum, rather than people being either mentally ill or mentally well. We are all on the continuum, and we move up and down according to factors such as our genetic makeup and upbringing, our life circumstances, and the stresses we are under. At one end of the continuum, we have mental disorders, like depression or anxiety. And at the other end, we have states of positive mental health, when we're thriving, content, and fulfilled. The aim of mental health interventions is to move people up the continuum, so that they're able to reach their full potential and live satisfying lives. The World Health Organization describes mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Being mentally healthy means being resilient and able to cope with difficult times, feeling in control, being confident, feeling good about yourself, managing and expressing your emotions, building and maintaining good relationships. We all experience periods when we feel stressed, worried, anxious, sad, afraid, or angry. These are all normal emotions. However, when these emotions become severe enough that it interferes with a person's ability to function daily, and these feelings become persistent over time, then it can develop into a mental health problem. There are many different types of mental disorders. When left untreated, mental disorders can be chronic and long-lasting, and are associated with increased disability. They significantly have an impact on daily functioning and frequently interfere with family, social, and work responsibilities. Fortunately, there are effective treatments and evidence-based interventions available that aim to help individuals understand and cope with symptoms of mental illness. However, very few people with mental disorders access existing treatment services. This may be due to barriers such as the stigma attached to seeking help, the lack of understanding of mental health problems, uncertainty of how to get help, or the fear of disclosing mental health problems. Research shows that stigma remains one of the biggest factors preventing people from seeking help early for their mental health problems and getting the appropriate support they need. It is important to acknowledge that we all have mental health and have a personal responsibility to learn how we can improve and maintain our well-being in order to lead meaningful and satisfying lives. Want to learn how you can do this? Great news! Why not join one of our communities?
Perfect.
Amazing. Okay, so Hannah and Victoria, can you just explain to us the difference between mental health and mental illness?
Yeah, sure. So as we can see by the video clip as well, it's just really interesting to see the stigma that's still attached to mental health. And it's understanding there's a difference between mental health and mental illness, as I mentioned earlier on. So mental health is what we all have. So mental health is our emotions, our well-being, it's our social abilities as well. And the effects that our mental health then has is on the way we think and we feel, and also we act. So especially with the circumstances that we're in at the moment, it really determines how we handle stress and also how we make life choices. So just to confirm again, mental health is what we all have and what we all need to keep as good well-being. Now, if we look at mental illness, then the first thing that kind of comes into our head again is psychosis, it's a bipolar. There's really kind of negative concepts that we think mental health is. So mental illness, again, is a condition. It's a broad range of conditions. It drastically changes our thoughts and our emotions and our behavior, and most importantly, our interaction with other people and our family members. So mental illness also stems from trauma and stress as well. That's what can trigger a condition. Hence why we're sat here today, because there's a lot of triggers that are going off at the moment due to isolation and financial burden. So it's affecting our day-to-day, again, our work, our family relationships as well. So that is the difference, just so we all know mental health to mental illness. Thanks, Emma.
Okay. I know you're now going to share some slides, but just before you do, can you, within what you're about to share with us some more evidence of mental health effects that may be apparent even within those that are watching today?
Yeah, for sure. I'll just pull up the screen so you guys can see some of the effects here. Okay, so I think it's really important as salon owners and also managers in the industry, we really understand the cost implications that poor mental health carries on a business. So 1 in 4 adults actually experience at least one diagnosable mental health problem in any given year. Poor mental health carries an economic and social cost of 105 billion pounds a year in England. And in 2018, there were a shocking 595,000 cases of work-related stress, depression, or anxiety, which led to 15.4 million working days lost. And I think the shocking thing here is this is only what we actually know. This is what's actually been reported. So if you think of it like an iceberg, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you think of all the employees out there that actually don't feel comfortable to go to their employer and say, I have to take this day off due to this reason, they probably will make an excuse up, such as stomachache or food poisoning. So I think the figures are a lot more than what we see here, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely, very true. So what early warning signs should we be looking out for within our teams and our staff?
So we popped a couple of points up there for everyone to see. I'll pick out kind of the 3 points which we should look at. So I think increased anxiety levels and feeling exhausted and restlessness. I think this is the same for all of us as business owners, but also we will be hearing this a lot from our employees. Also underperforming at work. Maybe you've had a star employee that always gets all the tasks done for you on time or completes them before the deadline's needed. Maybe you've asked them right now in this lockdown period to complete some tasks for you, and maybe they were heavily delayed or just didn't complete it at all without any apparent explanation to you. So really keep an eye on these kind of individuals. And also Hannah touched on it earlier. So yes, we're in self-isolation. But because we are isolating ourselves, we're starting to find that people are becoming withdrawn and they really don't want to socialize. So keep an eye out for those employees on the group WhatsApps, or maybe you're doing Zoom calls with your team that just don't want to participate or are, have gone kind of radio silent on there. I think that's a really good tip for everyone.
Okay. With COVID obviously being something we're all going through, everyone, what mental health conditions will we see being increased as a result?
Yeah, for sure. We will see anxiety being increased throughout COVID-19. I think I've put down a couple of explanations here, but we'll pull out some of the key triggers you can really look for. So again, social withdrawal, we touched on this earlier. This is a really big one for us. And also when you're on your Zoom calls and you're speaking with your teams, you may notice that they're shaking or trembling. So this is a really good key feature to look out for. Also, I've spoke to a lot of friends and colleagues over the past, it's kind of been the past week, where everyone started to come out with a real sense of dread and constantly feeling on the edge. And I think it's twofold. I think it's that we don't know when isolation is going to end. Maybe they'll extend again, maybe they might not. But a lot of my friends are feeling constantly on the edge that they need to return to work because some companies haven't reached out to their employees. They have just closed down the doors, left everything, and these people are just sat at home in their own heads for 24 hours a day. So I think this is a real feature we're going to start to see coming through. Obviously, stress is a huge factor. For us, it will be driven mainly by work and the financial burden. I think these are going to be your biggest real triggers. I think a lot of people have had reduced salaries. A lot of employees have actually started to take annual leave. So you will start to see effects of this coming through. You may see some employees that actually are really anxious, and you may see some anger come through, maybe from you wouldn't normally see it with these people within a work environment. Maybe you're starting to see like angry WhatsApps come through to you as a salon owner. Equally, you could start to see some real sadness come through for employees. Maybe they're worried now they've had to use some of their annual leave. They don't know how they're going to see their families or also support them financially. So I think this is one of the key factors that you will start to see coming through. Also depression. I think we all need to be very mindful of any employees that are suffering with depression. So really look out for those people that are avoiding any contact with you, have low self-esteem, and they're feeling very irritated during this period of COVID-19.
Okay. Can you explain to us how each person can move up and down the scale on a daily or hourly basis?
Perfect,
Yeah.
Thank you, Emma. So what I'm going to do is actually just show you a short clip again, video on how we can move up and down the scale. And it's such a great tool to use, one for ourselves personally, but also for our teams. I'm going to share that with you, and then we'll move on to that question in a bit more detail. Let's get this up for you a second.
Like we all have physical health, we all have mental health too. And the key to achieving maximum well-being is to have an equal balance of good physical and mental health. When seeking to gain a better understanding of mental health, it is important to understand that there are two elements that impact mental health. These are mental well-being and mental illness diagnosis, both of which have a huge impact on a person's life. You will all find yourselves in one of the following four quadrants. A person with no mental illness or disorder and positive mental health. A person with no diagnosed mental illness or disorder, but who has poor mental well-being. A person with a diagnosis of a serious mental illness and who has poor mental well-being. A person with a diagnosis of a serious mental illness but who copes well and has positive mental well-being. We all exist in one of these quadrants at any given point, and as a continuum that keeps on going and changes slowly over time, as does our mental health. This is a way to visually demonstrate how something as invisible as our mental health is fluid and constantly changing. This can be taken a step further through using the varying mood-coloured lines and sliders on both axes. You can be more specific and record the changes to your mental health over time. This is Nick. Nick has a mental illness diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, putting him on this axis. And so he places the slider here. Today is a good day for Nick. He is managing things quite well. So for his mental well-being, he places the slider here. By drawing a line up and across from each slider, Nick can record where he is today. The next day, however, Nick wakes to find his demons of darkness have returned. He withdraws from everyone, binge eats, self-medicates, and doesn't sleep. He still has a mental illness diagnosis, though he feels it is worse, so moves the slider here. And his mental well-being has worsened, so moves it here. Nick draws the lines and records the date again. The important message to take away is our mental health is fluid and forever changing. When someone has a mental illness diagnosis or poor mental well-being, this does not mean they are unable to work or ever will again. With early recognition, interventions, treatments and support, an individual can learn to better manage symptoms and work on their overall well-being, making it less debilitating. It's essential for employers and managers to understand, as it is for the individuals themselves. There is always hope. There will be tough times, but you will become a better version of yourself, and you can achieve great things whilst proving to be an invaluable asset.
Perfect. So that was a section on the Continuum. And as I mentioned, such a great tool, which I know I listened into the panel chat this morning, and I know a lot of you are doing check-ins as well with your team, which is fantastic. Communication is key in a time like this. And communication is vital to kind of stop any triggers as well coming off and the anxiety levels rising, the stress levels rising, or depression taking a hold, because that is, again, what we see being increased. So by using something like the Continuum as a great check-in tool with your team, you could do it in your morning WhatsApp group, maybe get them to tell you where they are on the scale, and maybe do it as a one-to-one. Tell them where they are for maybe Monday, get them to do it for a full week. And then you can really see that where kind of the key points are. And maybe it was on a Tuesday, you gave the team some information, maybe about annual leave or maybe about some changes within the SOPs. And you can really see where your team peaked or where they came back down. So we've done a lot of courses this week. We've been managed to put all our courses online, which has been fantastic for us. And we've had some really big HR directors from very large organizations. And the one takeaway that they got from our training was the Continuum. And a lot of them are using this tool for their daily check-ins, but also for a performance review. Regardless if we're in lockdown or not, or we're in isolation, our team will be having outbursts, will be very emotional, will be sending those messages at 3 a.m. with no hesitation. You might still have to give them that kind of disciplinary kind of talk, but remotely, which we know is very kind of not the normal way we would do that. So by using something, bringing in the Continuum into your meetings as well is a great way to see what's happening for your team's mental health. So as you can see, we all go up and down on a daily and hourly basis. I think, COVID-19 is a great example of how we do go up and down. For example, I think it was on Monday, I'd woken up in the morning, I was very happy, I did my Joe Wicks kind of workout, I did my meditation, did some journaling, but by 3 o'clock, my emotions, my moods had absolutely altered, and it came from nowhere. I started off my day and I'd be eating well and I was happy, but that goes to show that we're all kind of up and down with the information also that we're either being given, or the lack of it can really affect our mental health well-being. So there's a little bit on the continuum, just as a great tool for you guys to use back in your salons as well, and with your teams.
Perfect.
Guys.
That's an amazing tool to know about, and we're all going to have our struggles, but it's okay to have those struggles and to just make sure that the teams and staff are on hand to, you know, be there at any given time, because it is a very uncertain time, especially in the Middle East, where we're not sure what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, what we're doing today, what we're doing tomorrow. That's a great tool, so thank you. I guess could you talk us through the impact that mental health can have on mental health problems can have on employees within the workplace?
Yeah, for sure. Just let me pop it up for you. Cool. So the impacts on a daily basis, obviously, as Hannah mentioned, everyone is up and down right now. And I think during these unprecedented times, we're trying to learn to work differently in a way that we've never done before. I mean, for me personally, I have to coexist, that's not the right word, co-work with my husband. Co-work with my husband. So for us, we're both working in separate rooms, and we both start our days the same day, and we both kind of meet in the lounge, I guess, at 6-7 o'clock at night. And for those people that have children, they are trying to homeschool their kids as well on top of this. So I think it's really important that mental health problems can take effect through your day-to-day working days, and also your physical and mental health as well. So I think it can just make it a lot harder to kind of function normally at this point. I think it's a really key point that all managers and employees keep in their mind as well, that their teams are going through this. They are as well, but their teams are. So maybe if there's a delay in something, you know, just think maybe they're experiencing something different to maybe you are.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Amazing, love technology, but I hate it. So how can we develop a successful mental health wellbeing strategy within this workplace?
Perfect. So obviously now we've kind of found out, we've kind of set the stage. We all know what mental health is and mental illness. We can really see the effects and the triggers that we could see with our teams now. And now it's about building that culture within our teams. And this is your strategy. It's looking at kind of building an SOP, is very much like we have an SOP for our client journeys, our SOP for how we do a manicure. We also need to have an SOP for our teams and a wellness strategy to be able to support our team further, especially within these challenging times. And you will notice a lot more, obviously, once we do go back into salon, once we do open, those thought process will get even more animated. We've got our teams that are on salary reduction or have had to use their annual leave, especially from different communities. I mean, 80% of Dubai is expat community. We hold on to our holiday to go and spend that time with our family, but we need to make sure we're just motivating our team also. So when we do go back in salon, they're just as motivated, because they will be having that thought, because we're all going to be extremely busy when we do open the doors again. But they will have that thought in their head of, I'm doing the same workload at a reduced rate. And, you know, and that little bit of anger and those triggers or those mental health conditions will still spark its way back through, even though they understand that we've had, you know, something that is, you know, out of all of our hands, this, you know, the virus happened, but the effect will still be in that person's mindset of what their emotions and feelings are. So by the more we motivate our team now and support them with a really clear wellness strategy, it will kind of help for when you do eventually get back into salon without that kind of disgruntled, will she upsell to that client? I've just heard her miss out on an upsell for a Carastas, you know, Fusio dose at the backwash. She didn't upsell from a standard polish to a gel manicure because she feels angry and she doesn't want to. So by the more we motivate and the more we put in a strategy, the more we'll kind of stop those issues kind of happening in, hopefully, fingers crossed, the next 2 days when everybody reopens. Over to you, Victoria.
So I agree with what Hannah just said. I think obviously as business owners and salon owners, we need to be mindful of these triggers. And I think in our industry, we're so used to a physical role. We're so used to working with our hands and interacting with each other every day and interacting with a constant stream of clients. And then all of a sudden, everything's just stopped. So I think ensuring that you as a manager and as a business owner are spending as much time as possible trying to communicate with your teams, really get to know them, ask, how are you? How are you coping? Do you have a coping strategy in place for your teams? I also think to add on to Hannah's point is when we do return to work, which could be in a few days, it could be in 2 weeks. I think we're just all in limbo. We're all just waiting to see what happens. But what do you have in place? Do you have a return to work scheme? Have you discussed it with your team? Have you involved them in your decision making so they learn to reconnect with your company and find that sense of belonging? I think this is really important that we really focus on these with our employees moving forward. And also, as Hannah said, I think developing a mental health action plan and policy for your salons and well-being is needed. Provide the teams with training across the organization, from your hair to nails to reception. I think these are really key points.
Perfect. So yeah, this is your basic strategy. So please feel free to take notes or ask any questions. We're always obviously here, and we can obviously send you these slides as well if you really want to drill down further on how to build your strategy and your culture. But this is very top line for you guys to be able to start kind of popping something together for your teams. Perfect.
Cool.
I think we have
Thank you so much, ladies. So are there any key bits that you want to just reiterate before we go on to Q&As? Because we have...
Yeah, sure. So again, as we spoke about earlier on, communication is key. I don't know if anybody's heard about the expatriate syndrome, which is obviously, like I mentioned, 80% of us are from overseas as well. So when we arrive out into the Middle East, or when you relocate to a new location, expatriate syndrome is actually classed as a mental health condition. And it's what a lot of us go through. They say that it should only last for 6 months. We know, honestly, for myself, it was like 1.5 years, is always over about a year. However, what we might see now coming out of the lockdown period, that we start to go back into that expatriate syndrome. So it's just being really mindful. So communication really is key. So these are your takeaways from today as well. Also, just with clear communication with information that you're sharing as well, please be really mindful and put yourself in your team's position. Should we be sending that via WhatsApp, at 9 p.m. at night, just before she's due to go to sleep, because the anxiety levels and the stress levels will trigger even further? Is it that we should be sending it at 10 o'clock when we do our team check-in, or is it that we just pick the phone up? Be really, really careful with the communication and the platforms that we have available. Make sure that as a company, you are all singing off the same hymn sheet as well. Make sure that your SOPs and it's communicated from top down to bottom again. As like we kind of spoke about earlier on about motivation as well, because your team will obviously give you some great feedback and understand why we're doing the salary adjustments or reductions or getting them to use that annual leave. But once it starts to kick in and they start to kind of come out the other side and we're allowed out, they start to have those dreaded thoughts about, I'm not going to see my child, my mother, my brother. So really make sure that you're supporting your team and listening to them. Listening is the biggest skill, and listen non-judgmentally. So, instead of imposing our own thoughts, we need to ensure that we're listening to what they're saying and just being a soundboard to them as well. It's something very much from our industry that sometimes I would spend in the mornings anywhere up to 2 hours saying hello to all of my team and asking what they've had for dinner and just having a general touch base. Make sure you're still implementing that over the telephone and really having those conversations. So they're definitely my kind of takeaways from this session. And like I said, we can obviously share the slides with you if you'd like to see a little bit more detail on how to build that structure. Victoria?
Yeah, and if you guys want to follow us on Instagram, we will be sharing daily tips and techniques. So you can find us at Mental Health Wellbeing on Instagram. And if anybody wants to visit our website, you'll find us on www.mentalhealthwellbeing.com @work.com, and this obviously so sorry this shares other courses if anybody would like to start on more of a supervisory level course.
Amazing. So we're also offering 15-minute complimentary consultations as well. So if it is something that you want to start that conversation with us, I can really tell you in more detail, like Victoria mentioned, about the courses on offer and how that would be brought into your organisation. So feel free to kind of reach out. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. So if we just stop sharing your screen so that we can, I think, is it Victoria? Yeah, perfect. Then you're back together. Hopefully, as we have some questions to
so sorry, there you go.
Stop.
I know.
We've got some questions, so let me pop this open. So with the hairdressing industry as well as the beauty industry, the hair stylist as such, the person who is there giving the treatments, is often known to be the person who hears absolutely everything with that person's life. And I think that even is going to happen more so now with this lockdown and everyone super excited just to get out and get pampered. What advice would you give for that hairstylist, for example, who may well be suffering with their own mental health problems as a result of what's happened? What tips could you give that person or that stylist in particular to go through those probably quite difficult conversations that they're going to have with their clients?
Sure. I mean, I think within our industry anyway, as we all know, we are a very open industry, and our clients, regardless if we have COVID-19 or not, share with us our most deepest, darkest secrets. And I've had it before. I've literally come away and been in tears afterwards. People open up to you, and we really are their therapists. So I completely understand. So really, especially coming out of lockdown as well, you're going to hear a lot more. And I know we're doing a lot of research with CIPD at the moment, and we spent a bit of time with those guys, and we're saying that we're going to see so much more kind of bits and pieces come out as well. Domestic abuse is going to come out a lot more, alcohol abuse, so we'll see a lot of that with our clients. But how do we protect ourselves? It goes back to that basic, and I've always used it, and I always say it: protect yourself, put yourself in a bubble in the morning, make sure that you are protecting your own energy. It's kind of making sure that we are listening, that we're engaged, but you must let it go. And that's one of our top keys, which we go through a lot within our our awareness course of how to protect yourself as a first aider. So making sure that our diet's correct, make sure that we are taking time out for ourselves, catching up with friends and family, take that downtime. Is it your lunch break you decide to actually go outside of the salon and just go and sit in Starbucks, for example? Just really take that time to protect yourself. If you are all of us have a duty of care as well. If you have been told something that you find is a huge concern for your client, that she's just told you something, you need to go and ask for support or help, maybe from your manager or your in charge, to let them know, because we will be hearing a lot of very intense information from our clients, and obviously you have that relationship with them as a stylist, and they really do trust you. So just protect yourself, making sure you're having that downtime as well. That would be my advice.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything that can soothe anxiety whilst being at home that you could suggest some tips whilst we are in lockdown? Anything that you can suggest might help those who are suffering with anxiety but might not necessarily be able to get hold of a doctor or a therapist during this time?
I think from my point, try and limit your time on social media. I think that would be my key kind of takeaway throughout the whole COVID-19. As Hannah said, we're predominantly all expats, and we have family in different areas and friends in kind of different countries. So around the world, unfortunately, we are at this stage where everyone is in different stages. The UK is kind of peaking right now, and obviously in Europe, and then the States are kind of coming through. So I think when you're on social media all the time, it's really easy to feel drawn into everything. So it's super important to keep aware of the situation and to really understand. But I think I would say limit your time on social media, on the news. A few days ago, I had to just turn the news off because I had it on Facebook, I had it on Instagram, we was talking about it, Hannah and I, and my husband just had it on the news, and it was just a lot. And then obviously I was on Zoom with my family, and I just was like, oh, I can't, my anxiety was through the roof. And compared to that morning, nothing had changed. All of the impact from social media. So I would say, if you can, try and have a nice bath, and try and just have a little bit of self-therapy, have a little bit of be yourself, kind of just be still for a few hours, put some soothing music on, try and eat healthily, try and stay away from alcohol, and limit your time on social media.
Definitely meditation. I know one of the panelists this morning spoke about there's lots of meditation kind of groups that you can get involved with, which I thought was amazing. So meditation is key. Journaling, so writing about your thoughts, because again, that's your mental health. It's those negative thoughts that we have going around, and anxiety levels. It's understanding why you're triggering. So start journaling every day. That's a really great tool to help control those thoughts. Like we said, hot bath, spend time with friends and family as well, because when we have that anxiety, we kind of feel that we want to just be by ourselves and sleep, and we need to just ensure that we're spending that time and just communicating with not work people, with our soul family. Our family is a good one as well. It's really helped to kind of just soothe ourselves, really. Essential oils are great. Diffusers, I'm a firm believer in diffusers at home, in the bath as well. Mix it with your shower gel, get those essential oils going just to help calm, without obviously going to a GP and not having that kind of facility.
Okay, amazing. One more question. So how would you approach this kind of how are you strategy with your staff? I think this salon owner in particular is worried about how they would take it, would they be offended? It's quite a sensitive subject. So what tips could you give in order for them to just approach it the right kind of sensitive way?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we are doing our awareness course at the moment, and that was what we spent a lot of time of training the teams and managers and HR teams to be able to have that conversation. It goes a lot more into depth. So whoever you're talking to, Emma, happy to have a chat with them after the Q&A session as well, just to give them a bit more support. But there's a few layers that we need to go through with you about how to approach kind of that conversation. Yeah, I don't know, Victoria, if you had anything to kind of say on that. I think for us, it's just to make sure that we give you the right terminologies to use. But it's like mental health, you still need to talk to them normally. So for me, when I'm having these conversations, I'd literally be like, I like your hair today. How are you, babe? That kind of thing. You start a normal conversation. It's not, hi, we're here to talk about mental health. No, talk to them in a normal, and then you just put it into conversation that way. But yeah, happy to discuss this with the person you're talking to, not a problem.
Yeah, no, I agree with Hannah. So allow enough time to have that conversation with somebody, but don't make it about mental health. Just try and open the conversation. So you are having, so how was your evening last night? What did you get up to? And just, kind of approaching it in a different way. But as Hannah said, we're more than happy to kind of speak to whoever asked that question and help them and provide more support, Emma.
And use your trigger as well. So if you're asking her how she is and she's saying she's feeling shaky, nervous, irritable, you've gone through the checklist today of depression, of anxiety, of stress. So use that checklist and it should start giving you thoughts and be like, at the end of the day, I'm not a GP or a psychiatrist, nor is a salon manager, but you can then say, okay, I've got some information. Information is key. So, if she's telling you those triggers, be like, I've got something for you. It sounds a little bit like stress. And just have that kind of, let me print it out for you. Have a read. Let me know if I can do anything else for you. A lot of organizations that we've spoken to have got hotlines as well. So you can give her maybe access to a number that your teams can call if they are then having those experiences as well, or those kind of triggers. So yeah, that would be our advice.
Okay, amazing. This has been full of such great advice and ideas, especially during this time of uncertainty, I think, and I hope that I definitely picked up on loads of tips, and I'm sure the rest of the attendees have. So thank you so much for your time, for joining us today. Anyone in the group that has been watching today, if you want to be connected with Victoria and Hannah, feel free to drop me an email at any time. I will put maybe your Instagram handle, I'll put in the chat for them to give you a follow. And yes, just reach out to me anytime if anyone's got any questions or wants to be connected. So yes, this leaves me to say thank you so much, Hannah and Victoria, for your presentation and for your time. Thank you everyone for joining. This is the last day of Virtual Hair and Beauty Week. We've got one more session at 3:30 with Nargesh Wadia Austin, so feel free to tune in then, live on Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, everyone stay safe, take care, and look after yourself. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you guys for tuning in as well.
Bye ladies, thank you.
Bye, take care.
Bye.